This is why I'm sitting in this chair. I'm not sitting in this chair because I've listened to other people. I've done things the way other people have told me to do. I've had plenty of opinions along the way to tell me to change what I do. I've stayed fast to what I believe in, what I think is true, and that's what I'll do here now. If I fail, we'll be there for everyone to see, but it's not going to be because I've changed my approach or what I believe in. What motivates me and what drives me on a daily basis is continually to stay true to my values and what I believe is the right thing to do in every situation. It's who I am, mate. I've been like that my whole career and I won't change. Why don't you change? But change to what? Change to something somebody else was doing or somebody else did. I was born here to do it my way. Otherwise, what's the point of me being here? I'm not going to change my values. I'm not going to change my beliefs. I'm not going to change my sense of purpose or the way I do things. There are always people in life who, people look at a bit curiously because they do things differently. They're a bit of a joke till they get it right, and all of a sudden they're a genius. We're in a tough spot and there's a big fight at hand, but I love that. I love that I'm right in the middle of it, and my job is to try and get us out of it.
I find the current Ange Postecoglou situation fascinating. On the one hand, you have a manager with an unwavering conviction that his footballing philosophy is the way to finally deliver consistent success to Tottenham. On the other hand, you have a lengthening list of dire results and poor performances, leading to a building resentment among supporters and a wave of criticism from increasingly sceptical analysts. He has been called arrogant, delusional, and out of his depth. Who is right? First, let's enter the mind of Ange Postecoglou and examine how his ironclad faith in his methods came to be. Ange's father was a hard-working man, and as a boy, the scant seconds he did see him during the week, the guy was grumpy and distant. But at the weekend, something magical happened. When they went together to watch the footy, Ange's dad transformed into a different man. He was happy, sociable and excited, and the type of football that delighted him the most, the aggressive and attacking kind. So Ange quickly learned to love the sport that brought about such a change in his old man. As a player at South Melbourne, he was coached by one of his boyhood idols, one of the greatest players of all time, Ferenc Puskás. Humble, down to earth and inspirational, Puskás was the single biggest influence on Postecoglou as a manager. Ange's ultra-attacking, aggressive 4-3-3 system with teams who play out from the back is lifted straight from the Hungarian legend. In recent years, Ange has tinkered with the fullbacks, inverting them so they occupy more central positions, but the core value has never changed for Ange. Get his teams to play football his old man would love to have watched. So with such a profound backstory, it's obvious why Ange Postecoglou so strongly believes that this is the way that football should be played. But where did the steadfast belief that this type of football can be successful come from? Well, because it has been, over and over again. 4 A-League titles, 2 with South Melbourne, 2 with Brisbane Roar, the first ever and still only Asian Cup for the Australian national team, a first J-League title in 15 years for Yokohama F Marinos, 5 out of 6 available domestic trophies in 2 seasons at Celtic. That is certainly a strong body of proof and shows why Ange Postecoglou is just so convinced that his football is not only exhilarating and beautiful, but is also winning football. And a man with conviction is surely a man with integrity and honour. As Kazu Inamori says, it takes tremendous courage to hold on to your convictions, but this is the only way to accomplish an innovative and creative feat. However, a man who is unwilling to examine his convictions in the light of contrary evidence is surely irrational at best and foolhardy at worst. As Friedrich Nietzsche said, convictions are more dangerous foes of truth than lies. And there is a growing pile of evidence that Postecoglou needs to put some of his ideas under the microscope. Let's take perhaps the most talked about example from this season. One of Postecoglou's biggest non-negotiables is his team play with a high defensive line. His 2 first-choice centre-backs that allow Spurs to play this risky strategy while greatly minimising goals conceded on fast breaks, Mickey van de Ven and Christian Romero, have both been injured for much of the season. Replacements Radu Dragusin and first Ben Davies and then Archie Gray, who by the way is 18 and not a centre-back, are not Van de Ven and Romero and have struggled to play the way Ange wants. You would think that given these extenuating circumstances, when coming up against one of the most potent and pacey attacks in the Prem in Liverpool, that the manager might adapt to the situation and set the team up differently. Not Ange, he stuck to his guns and Spurs were ruthlessly exposed, cut to pieces time and again and battered 6-3 at home. Another key component to Spurs being able to successfully play a high line was the goalkeeper Vicario. Vicario is great at coming out of his area and narrowing the space left behind the defence between the goal. His replacement Fraser Forster stays rooted to his goal line like a great oak tree. The case of Vicario and Forster highlight another stark example of where Postecoglou's convictions are leading his team to doom. A fixed feature of Ange ball is playing out from the back always.
Late in the game they'll look over the bench and saying, you really want us to play out again? No, so I say, no, play keep playing, you know.
Vicario was very good at this. Forster is not. That doesn't matter to Postecoglou. He refused to change the style, even temporarily, and this has had disastrous consequences. I would perhaps understand if this was some young academy goalie who Ange was trying to train in the heat of battle to be a press-resistant wizard with his feet. But Forster is 36. He has very clear strengths and weaknesses. Playing out from the back is a weakness for him. It is clear that all top managers play to the strengths of the players they have at their disposal, and that is something which changes throughout the season due to injury and suspension. The current injury crisis has been used by some as the main reason or excuse for Spurs' current abysmal run of form. And while it is true that they have been decimated and that the board has been accused of failing to adequately strengthen in the summer window, there is evidence to suggest that Postecoglou does not learn from the mistakes of the past. At the beginning of his first season at Celtic, 6 players suffered hamstring injuries within a 2-month period. His words at the time showed that he knew that this would happen. We play differently, train differently, and it takes players time to adjust to that, and along the way we obviously pay a price. But the one thing I've never done and won't do in my whole career is compromise the football team we want to be because we are not quite ready to be there. I'd rather sort of keep going at the pace we are going, even though it means we're going to have some casualties along the way and lose a few. But I still think for us as a football team and club, as we try to grow to be a certain type of side that plays a certain brand of football, it is just part of the process. This is now Ange's second season at Spurs, and the majority of those who have been out injured are not new players who desperately need to get up to speed with his methods. The accusation that Ange has mismanaged the squad and failed to properly rotate and take some of the load off the most at-risk players is unavoidable. Postecoglou's philosophy on the current crisis goes like this.
Just think, it's a hell of a challenge. I keep telling the guys in there, it's just going to make the story better. I really believe all these things are just temporary. They're a good test of character, they're a good test of resolve, they're a good test of resilience, and eventually we'll get over this.
Why is he so sure that, first, this period of terrible form is only a temporary thing, and second, that there is success on the other side? Well, because once again, that's how it has happened in the past. Postecoglou's first season with Marinos began disastrously, with the team being drawn into an unprecedented relegation battle. They ended up in 12th, their lowest placement in over 15 years. They had the second highest goals for, but the third highest goals against. Ange then brought in more of the players he wanted. Things started to click with the existing squad, and they romped to the league title on a 10-match unbeaten run. At Celtic, he won only 3 of his first 7 league games, drawing 1 and losing the rest. Then, again, everything clicked, and the boys went unbeaten in the league till the end of the season, winning a double. So Ange clearly believes that a similar situation is what is happening right now, and some epic unbeaten run is on the other end of this dodgy patch. He might be right, but there is reason to suspect that what happened at Marinos and Celtic is not what is happening at Spurs. The main one being that Ange got off to an unbelievable start at Tottenham. He somehow managed to get the team purring almost instantly, and stunning examples of the power of Ange's football were being delivered week in, week out. They went unbeaten for 10 games. Ange won 3 consecutive Manager of the Month awards and was the new darling of the Premier League. Pundits and analysts were running out of superlatives for him and the glorious, beautiful style of football he had brought to England's top flight.
Spurs were lovely, honestly, all credit to Spurs.
Really good, really impressed. Impressed by the courage to play, obviously, the patterns of play.
Yeah, it's great to see. I think they've got the style back.
Top of the league. Are they title contenders this season?
I don't see why not, because they're absolutely flying.
A stunning start to the season under Ange Postecoglou.
And then the wheels fell off.
That is a game that you do not see once in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
And Postecoglou has never really been able to put them back on again. Sure, there have been certain moments, certain games where they have been able to reproduce those swashbuckling displays of Ange's first few months. But week in, week out, over the course of a whole season, apparently not. And so it seems that rather than Spurs players needing time to work out what their new gaffer wants of them, it just took some time for the league to work out what Ange was up to. And now he's been found out. Will it make sense if you tell the world you only know how to coach one way?
It's what I believe in. It's what I can coach. So if you ask me to go into a club tomorrow and say, look, this club wants to be really strong defensively, play on a counter-attack, I can't coach that way.
If you tell the world that you are never going to change your approach.
And if people want me to change my approach, it's not going to change. Like, we're doing it for a reason. We're doing it because we think it'll help us be successful.
Then you become predictable, easy to set up against and easy to stop. So it may well be that the naysayers were right, and the Ange ball might be alright for Australia, Japan or Scotland, but at the highest levels, it will eventually get brutally exposed. Additionally, it may simply not be viable in the Premier League. The type of players who can play Ange ball and play it well are rare and thus expensive. How many Mickey van de Vens, for example, does Ange actually need for a whole season? Now, for the record, I don't want Big Ange to be sacked, and I don't think he should be. I loved him at Celtic and was gutted when he left. I hope he can be a success at Spurs. He has turned them into the most entertaining team in the league. As a neutral, I know I'm guaranteed a cracking match every time I tune into a Tottenham game. It's been reported that he retains the support of both his players and the board, who rate him as a great coach and believe he is the right man to take them forward. However, it must be noted that Daniel Levy has been notoriously trigger happy over the years, and it's unsure how patient he will be if things don't improve. Ange's complete unwillingness to adapt is starting to look less like conviction and more like pig-headed stubbornness. Looking through history, all the most successful coaches have been pragmatic. They know how to adjust to changing situations, not just over the course of individual matches, but over the course of a season. They are willing to at least consider having a plan B or C. If Ange Postecoglou doesn't realise that being open to changing your approach and modifying your philosophy sometimes is not a weakness, but in actual fact a strength, then it may be his demise. However, Tottenham's Carabao Cup semi-final first leg against Liverpool last week offered up a stark reminder that waiting around for Ange to change or adapt may be a really long wait. Following the hammering they got in the league, Spurs set up more conservatively. They approached the game with more caution than usual, and it reaped great rewards as they ran out deserved 1-0 winners. So, time to rejoice, right? Big Ange learned from a previous humbling and intentionally changed tack to counter specific threats. Yeah, not so much.
Was there any change in your sort of overall approach from the Liverpool game here in the league? It felt a bit more pragmatic.
No, you can put it that way. I mean, people said, my midfield setup was, a little bit more conservative today. That's because I only had 3 midfielders to choose.
If receiving the painfully obvious positive reinforcement of switching it up and subsequently beating a team who very recently thrashed you is not enough to show Ange Postecoglou that making purposeful tactical adjustments like that is the way to long-term success, then I don't know what is.